Hey, keep that energy going for your next comic. He coming here all the way from Madison, Mr. T. Finnegan!
What up, people? How y'all doing tonight? All right, well, that's what I like to hear. Well, my name's Tim Finnegan, but besides being known as Tim Finnegan, I could also be known as Danny Torrance. I'd like to tell you guys a fucking story now about a time. When I was a kid, I once lived at the Overlook Hotel in Colorado for the winter time. It was when my father, Jack Torrance, got a job there for the winter. So what happened was, at the time, I had an imaginary friend who happened to live inside of me. His name was Tony, and he kind of told me the future and what kind of shit was going to happen next. Like, you know, when Jack Torrance, my father, was interviewed for the job at the Overlook Hotel, my imaginary friend Tony told me that Jack was going to get the job. He's like, Jack's going to get the job, right before I even knew that Jack got the job. And, you know, Jack called my mother, Wendy, to let her know that he got the job. And then once he was hired, I went with Wendy and Jack on a road trip up the mountains to the Overlook Hotel in Colorado. So that was a hotel that was fucking open seasonally only, and it was closed for the winter time from like November through May. So Jack was in charge of the hotel for the winter. So what happened next was, you know, once we got to the hotel, we met some of the staff who showed us around and gave us a tour, and it was fucking awesome. And I even met one guy named Dick Halloran, who was a fucking hilarious dude, and he happened to know that I was into Bugs Bunny and liked to be called Doc. He kept calling me Doc before he even knew other people called me Doc. And Wendy was like, how do you know he likes to be called Doc? And he's like, well, he looks like a Doc. And then Dick Halloran said to me, what's up, Doc? And I was like, holy shit, you know that I like to be called Doc. So Dick Halloran gave me some ice cream, and I enjoyed getting to know him and the history of the hotel. And he told me there was an evil guy who used to swing an axe and make it haunted, but I kind of knew I would set my precautions if that were to happen again when I was at the hotel. So what happened then was, you know, once Jack Torrance became in charge of the Overlook Hotel for the winter, it started to become haunted. So one way it became haunted was, you know, when I was riding my fucking tricycle through the hotel, I saw blood by the elevators in the hallway. There was other creepy shit in the hallway, and I even once saw two evil twin girls who said to me, hey, come and play with us, Danny. I'm like, holy shit. And then Tony kept telling me what was going to happen next, and he kept creeping me out. But there was only one point, you know, when I went through the Greenbush maze outside during daylight, when that was a fucking awesome time. I kind of made my way through the maze and learned my way around. But there was one time that Jack did something mysterious. He was working, typing away on his typewriter, and Wendy came down to talk to him. And Wendy said to Jack, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And Jack said, look, I'm working right now. When I'm working, you need to shut the fuck up. And Jack said, you're not allowed to talk to me while I'm working. But then later I realized that all the shit he typed on his typewriter all day when he was working his ass off all day was he wrote, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And then the next thing that happened was I went into my room quietly because I wanted my fucking fire truck, and I thought Jack was taking a nap, so I went in quietly. But then Jack talked to me. He's like, hey, Danny, can I talk to you for a minute? And I asked, you know, Jack, hey, you would never hurt Wendy or me, would you? And he's like, what do you mean? And he said he would never hurt us, but I could tell he didn't sound sincere, and he wasn't being honest. I could tell something was up with him. And then, you know, even later on, there was a snowstorm, and the phone lines were down, and Wendy radioed the forest and police department and figure out what was going on. And then after that, you know, Dick Halloran tried to call the hotel, but the phone lines were down, so he called the police. But then Jack took the battery out of the hotel radio in the hotel, so he didn't even know what the fuck was going on, and the police couldn't get a hold of him. So then Dick had to fly from Florida to Colorado to figure out what the fuck was going on. So things even became more haunted when Tony, you know, made me evil by coming inside of me. And when I was in the bedroom with Wendy, I kept saying the word red rum, and I was like, rad rum, rad rum. And Wendy didn't know what I was doing, and then Wendy looked in the mirror, and I had a knife, and Wendy noticed that the word red rum, it means murder spelled backwards, and she was like, holy shit. And then Jack became evil, and he swung an axe and tried to break in. Wendy pushed me out the window, and so when I went out the window, I was able to get out, and Wendy told me to run, but Wendy had to fight Jack, and Jack swung his axe and was trying trying to get in. He was like, "Here's Johnny." But then, after I escaped, Jack chased me through the maze, but I went in all different directions so I could get him lost. And then Wendy got out, and then Jack chased me through the maze, but then I got away, and Jack froze to death, and then I escaped with Wendy in a snowmobile. And then after all that shit was over, we went back to the hotel to grab our belongings, and I saw a picture in the hallway that showed a picture of Jack in a ballroom at the 4th of July ball that took place in 1921 at the Overlook Hotel. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't know he was part of this. So, yeah, so that's pretty much my story about how I lived through those tough times and how I lived through the time of The Shining. That's my time. Thank you for watching tonight. You guys have a wonderful night. Thank you.
One more time for Tim Finnegan and keep that going for Tommy Hudson, everybody!